Hey, welcome to my channel. And today in this video, I'm going to talk about why I chose Next.js with SSG for my blog post and some of the advantages that I am getting because I have chosen that stack. Some of the page speed scores I was able to achieve and certain things that I worked in Laravel to get the server side generated pages. To start with, I'll show you that right now my homepage page speed score on the desktop is 98 and on mobile it is 92. Now, obviously, there is some room for improvement, but in general, they are pretty awesome. Anything which is above 90 is going to be a great starting point for you for your website's SEO score. Google is going to love the score. However, how did I achieve it is something that I'm going to talk about. And obviously, there are certain things which are still pieces that I can improve on my inside pages, and that is something also I will talk about in my subsequent videos. But this video is specifically around what is SSG and how I tweaked Laravel to support SSG on my website. So, without wasting much time, let's get started. So, to give you a little background, initially my blog was, it kind of rotated between Laravel, Drupal, WordPress, and quite a few things. But then I have right now settled to a Laravel backend using Filament, which I have spoken about how I did the development in my past two videos. If you haven't seen them, I would suggest you look at that through this playlist. But yes, my right now blog is a Next.js frontend application and it has a filament based backend application to support the content creation. Now, why I chose SSG? First of all, now I have gone detailed into this thing about the strategies with Next.js, when you can use SSG and stuff like that in this article. However, if you are a visual learner, I would try to make you understand what are the rationale behind choosing that particular strategy. So, my blog is, although it's a blog, you may say it is dynamic in nature, but honestly speaking, if I am not changing any content, it is very static in nature. The content doesn't change too frequently, and that means that if I am able to generate an entire HTML of my all the pages inside the blog, I'll be able to serve them like that. But then the question is, how do I do that? Well, Next.js has one option where what they call the SSG or the server side generated pages, where once we create a build of our application or website, whatever it is, it creates an HTML page of all the possible pages that are there. Okay, so what are the advantages? First of all, we don't need a backend running because once the build is created, there's no API call. There's no going back to the backend server or to the API to fetch any information. Everything is generated at first. And then the second big advantage is I can host it with Vercel or any other CDN providers because these are static HTMLs, and I can get blistering speed with my website because these are at the end HTML pages. So my server response time is very small. It is CDN based. So any user who is, let's say, viewing my blog from any other country other than India, they will get a very fast download speed compared to, let's say, in a normal way. If I had done a Laravel application and my server is in Mumbai data center, someone in US will find it to be a little slower because of the latency. I can speed up my application no matter what. The latency is something which I cannot beat. And then I'll have to replicate servers on all geographic locations, which can be a big bomb on my pocket. So we understand why I did SSG. And believe me, there are so many projects that right now my company gets where the client's only demand is, we have a slow website. Let's see how we can improve the page speed score, right? So you can understand that the page speed score right now, or what we call the core vitals, are very vital for SEO and Google to be particular. So currently, if I show you my blog build process, I can do npm run build start, right? That would basically mean that first it will create the build, okay, it will generate all the pages, and then it will spin up that server which is able to host and run those generated files. So let us start that process. So as you can see, I have about 97 odd pages on my website. It has quite a few pages here and there. um, Next.js is giving me a sense of the KB for each page. It is also telling me that the articles is a little big and I need to work on that, something that I'm planning to do. But yeah, it basically generated the entire site. Now, sorry, not the PHP Storm, but rather localhost 3000. And if you see right now, I'm able to serve these pages and these are literally loading instantaneously. Yes, there will be a slight difference in the loading speed of the images because right now my net might be a little slow, but the other pages are literally in a blink of an eye. And basically, that means that if my backend application is down, my server is not running as well, I can still host it. Also, one quick tip: if you are trying to do something similar, you don't want a server on AWS or somewhere, like, right? You want your Laravel application to create the API for the blogs, but you don't want to spend money right now on the AWS server or a DigitalOcean server. ngrocks gives you a domain name, right? So what you can do is get that domain name, create your blog application, run it on your local machine, and when you are ready with the build, run the Laravel application through ngrocks on a port, because now it is a public URL, and do the build. So Next.js will be able to contact to those API points, which is being routed through ngrocks, and you will be able to create the build. And once the build is created, you don't need the backend application. So without a server, you will be able to host your own WordPress, blog on Vercel. But yeah, so that's generally what happens with my current scheme of things. But there is one thing which you will encounter when you are creating the build. So now if you see, this entire thing of creating 97 pages was done within, 10 to 15 or 20 seconds maybe, right? And that meant it is going to make a lot of API calls. So in your Laravel application, if you are thinking along my lines, you would have estimated that there is a problem, or rather anticipated that there will be a problem. We will quickly hit the rate limit of our API middleware because Laravel says that in a minute you can make 60 API calls. After that, we will get the rate limit exception. Now, how have I solved that problem? Well, we need to understand that we need API rate limiting because we don't want anyone, especially because I am hosting my blog application on an AWS server. I don't want anyone to start bombarding with API requests on my backend. It is going to be disastrous. So I need to have that API middleware which has some basic throttling, but at the same time, I do want Vercel to get some benefit because I am whitelisting that server. So this is what I have done. I'll go to my app HTTP folder. Inside that, I'll show you that I have a middleware called Vercel API middleware. Okay, no, my bad. This is not the file. I think it is inside. Right. So it is inside the route service provider, and this is the code. So what am I doing? So we have the rate limiter facade for us. And what we are doing is we are saying that that facade is applicable for the API. My default max attempts is 60 per minute, okay, which is the default, and I'm setting that as default. Then I am checking if the request has a header and that header has the key X Vercel token. Okay, if I have that key and that token value is something which matches this configuration, which obviously you can understand if I click on it, that I am expecting this value from my env. So what are we saying? Let's go back. If my request has a header called xversal token and the value of that header is something which is in my env, then I know that the request is coming from a trusted source. And if that is the case, I don't have a problem increasing the rate limit to this huge number. Okay, and that basically solves the problem. If my max attempts is initially 60, if I see these two conditions being fulfilled, I increase the max attempt, otherwise I have a default 60, and then I'm saying that for this particular IP, set it as the max attempts. And that's about it. So if you see, my APIs are basically being rate limited by 60, but then if I have a Vercel token which matches with whatever I have in my env, I'm done. I'm going to whitelist that server. And that is how I am able to achieve these kind of stuff. If I don't do that, let me what I can do is 1 2 3. So even if the token is coming, it is not going to match 1 2 3. So if I now do a build, let's wait and watch. All right, it starts to break because right now it is complaining that it is getting a 429 status code, and that is what is bound to happen because I don't know you, right? You are trying to exploit my API, so fine, I block you. Again, with this code change, with the proper token, if you are making that API call, let's see what happens. Yeah, as expected, the build is complete. So yeah, this is how I have achieved the whole concept of doing SSG in Vercel, rather in Next.js and Vercel with a Laravel backend. That is what I wanted to cover in this video. I hope this helps you understand the entire concept and the architecture behind this and how this is going to be beneficial for your end clients. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.